Hello and welcome back to Motorsport and Scale, episode 6 of the model Factory Hiro Maserati 250F Streamliner from 1955. Today's episode we're going to be working on steps 10 to about 19, I believe. And as you can see in front of me, I've got most of the parts all cleaned up and ready for final test fitting and prep for paint. So yeah, let's just set this aside for a minute. Let's have a little quick boot at the instructions. Show you what we're going to be working on. So again, as I say, we're going to be going from steps 10, which is the gearbox transaxle assembly, which I've already got actually assembled right here, as you can see. Or at least the major components. There's some fittings and oil lines still to go that we'll get on once we get it painted. So yeah, we'll be working on that and then moving on to the rest of the components of the rear part of the chassis. And so forth. So as you can recall, we've talked about this before. I've talked to you about this before. Is I want to get this top part of the chassis actually installed before I paint the chassis. Just to make it cleaner. I don't want to put this on right now, but make it cleaner. Get these joints to disappear. These two at the top, and then the two joints right here that we'd be able to see. Reality is, when this thing's all together with the bodywork on, you'd never see those joints, but the way this thing builds up, you'll essentially have a finished chassis, which you can have sitting on the wheels without the bodywork on. So I want to do a bit of a photo shoot like that, so I'd like these components to look nice without the bodywork on. So that's our objective. And I think I've already talked about it before, but just as a reminder, you can see in the instructions here, they have us, build up all the components of the floor pan, and then add it to the chassis. Well, I've got it already assembled and added to the chassis. I actually soldered it under here. Hopefully this is all focusing good. I got it soldered mainly for strength reasons. The way this attaches, I think I've talked about this before, is it screws to this pan, and that's sort of the main structural means of connecting the two halves. So, and then this floor pan just basically had 4 little pins on the bottom that attached it to the rear part of the chassis. So it really didn't give a whole lot. It didn't instill much confidence in me that it would be a very structural fastening of these two components. So I went ahead and soldered this, which makes the next part, this next couple steps are going to be a little bit more complicated. Because this part is all bare aluminum, and then the frame is painted gray, so that's definitely going to present challenges in getting everything finished off. So essentially what I need to do, this is where I'll deviate a little bit from the order operations of the assembly manual, is I've got the transaxle assembled, but that was to figure out a way to get it in here with the top piece done, which I did, and I think I mentioned that already. So, but right now what I'm worried about is getting this finished, getting the frame finished. So what that means is I want to get everything associated with the floor pan and the pedal boxes done. As you can see in there, we don't obviously have the pedals in yet, so that's the next thing I'll work on. Is I'll get the pedals all test fit, get all my holes drilled, get them all ready to go, and essentially get them finished, get this finished, get it painted, and then I'll mask it all off. And then I can start working on the frame. So, a bit of a deviation in order of operation, but I want to get the frame done first to get all this together. Then we'll skip back, get the transmission finished off, get it installed, and then all the rest of the components that go along with it, and then that'll work into down here. We're starting to work on the rear suspension, and and then we go over to the next section 14 where we start finishing off the rear suspension and so forth, up to getting the chassis joined, and a little bit of work on the cockpit and some of the oil lines that got to go in. These are the ones that connect to the front section that we talked about before. Then we come over here, we've already done all this. This is a part, this makes no sense. Why this step here is where it is? Because it's got nothing to do with this, really. I think they just forgot and they stuck it in here. Whereas, honestly, it should have been at the... it should have been done over here, right after this. It's another part of step 9 or a separate step. Anyways, it's very unusual. They did that. Yeah, so then we'll probably stop there. This is where I'm going to stop. Maybe get the seat done, get the interior done with the seat, or maybe I won't do the seat. I'll just get done up to the end of step 17. For this episode. That actually might be the most logical place to sort of pause and do an episode break. And then the next one we'll work on the seat, steering wheel, brakes. Got the exhaust to go there, and and then it's building the wheels, the rear fuel tank and that. So we got a little bit of work to do. I've already assembled the tank, as you know. We just got to finish it, and I got to make a decision on what I'm going to paint that, because it's not like they had multiple cars throughout the season. They might have had a few. I'm not sure if this was a factory car, a team car, or if this is a privateer-owned car. But in any case, the bare chassis, or the actual chassis, would have been the same car. Just the Streamliner body was used for the high-speed circuits. Like this one's, I think it was Monza, is where it was raced with the Streamliner body. But then in other races, it would have just had the regular body. So, and with the regular body on there, the gas tank, that exposed tank, or that tank was exposed. So it would have been painted body color. So I imagine what's under the Streamliner body should be the painted fuel cell. So, anyways, I check into what I'm going to do there. So that's the plan of attack over the next little while. I imagine that this episode, like many of the other episodes, sort of, I don't know, they work out to 30 minutes, 45 minutes, hour, whatever they are in length. Is really representative of about 2 or 3 weeks worth of work. So yeah, that's all I'll be working on over the next couple of weeks, is getting the chassis and the rear part of the chassis all done. We'll just throw that in view one last time. That's pretty much all the components. There's some photo etch parts, obviously, I don't have here. They're still on the fret, but the rear mono leaf spring and other little bits of photo etch add on to this. So not a huge amount of parts, but a lot of little fiddly stuff that's, there's going to be a little bit of soldering. There's also some brass tubes for the rear uprights. That's what these are part of the suspension here. I don't know if I grabbed the right side or not. Probably not. I didn't. These sit here somewhere, wherever it lines up, somewhere around there. So they use brass tube to connect the two for the two trailing arms. So yeah, we'll have to figure all that out, get everything tweaked in the right position, get our ride height set. Yeah, so lots of little things to work on. It should be a good episode. So, anyways, I will check back in with you shortly on a little bit of progress with the sort of base part of the chassis, and we'll see you in a bit. Hey, just a quick check-in to a little bit of a progress update. So yeah, we've got the chassis is all together. You can see I got this got it all attached. Everything's painted up. Bit of weathering done on it. Yeah, it all went together pretty well, including the backside. Although it's really, this is not going to be a model you're going to pick up and look at the bottom of. But anyways, that's all done. I've got most of the little parts ready, detailed, ready for assembly. I still have, I've kind of left the dash and those kind of components for last. I'll probably do a bit of the sub-assemblies here first. I got the transmission is all ready to go here. Hopefully that's focusing. Got that all ready to go. Weathered up. Looks pretty good, in my opinion. I got suspension stuff over here. The only thing I haven't really done yet is build the rear mono leaf spring. I want to get the rest of the suspension done and installed first, because you got to bend it. But you need all the suspension in place in order to figure that out, to get the right arc on the leaf, because as you can see right there, it obviously it mounts on the is that focusing on the two uprights, and then on the chassis in the middle, and goes under these sort of guides. So to get the arc correct, you need everything sort of in place. So I'll get all this put together, then get the leaf spring done, then move on to the last couple steps for the interior. But I'll probably just carry on putting all this together, what I have done so far. And then we'll do another quick little check-in and see where we're at with this. But it's come along nice. This has actually been, a third, half a second break between when I opened this video up and talking about this, but it's been a few months actually. It's been a bit of a summer. But anyways, we're back on it now, and yeah, we'll try to keep it moving along. So I will see you in a bit. Hey, just a quick check-in. Just getting the rear suspension mounted on this thing. Just wanted to show you a little bit of what was needed to get this all assembled. As you can see, I got it all clamped up right now, so I don't want to touch it. The glue's drying. But bit of a process to get the suspension hooked up and aligned properly, get it, the track width the same on both sides, getting the ride height the same on both sides. There's not a whole lot of indexing involved in this thing, so essentially what I did, the front was a little bit easier. Hopefully the ride height will be okay, but the front A-arms are indexed, so they can only go on one way, and they had very little movement up and down, so you can pretty much get it established the ride height at the front. The back should be the same. I think these cars sat pretty level, so I just measured the distance to the mounting point for the drums on the front hubs. I made a little jig. That's what my little machinist square here. You can see there's some little plastic cards sitting under here. That's spacing up, and the hub is sitting on that at the same point that I measured on the other hubs. So the ride height should be the same. So that's establishing that, and then I just have this clamped together while it all glues to hold it all together and to hold it square and perpendicular. So a little bit of guesswork involved in getting this together. They don't give you much really to index off of, so you just got to hope for the best that the ride height's going to be okay once it's all assembled. You will, because everything's white metal, you will be able to bend it a little bit, like if the camber of the caster, like it's just the camber is off a bit or the toe is off a bit. You should be able to adjust it a little bit with the way the hubs mount, so, or the drums mount on the hubs, so hopefully that'll be okay, and I won't have to adjust it much. But anyways, that's what I've been working on. You can see I've got, the shifters installed over here, over there, drive shaft. It's just sitting there. It's not actually hooked up. It's loose right now. I gotta there's a little belt that goes between the drive shaft and this pump assembly here. But that's, it's getting pretty close. I got another little oil tank that's gonna go on. It dismounts to the bulkhead there. I don't know if it might be a little fuel tank, a transfer tank for the fuel. I'm not sure, because the oil lines actually go in this little notch. They run past the tank there, so I don't know what it's for. There's no lines that go to it. It's kind of odd. So end of the day, you don't really see much of that down on the side when the body's on, so I'm fine with not filling in that detail at this point because I don't have any references of any of that. So anyways, that's where we are. We're just about got this rear section done. Once this is all set up and dried, then I'll start building the leaf springs. I couldn't build the leaf spring single yet because these points here on the hubs, those are actually the eyes of the spring itself, already molded in here. So to figure out what the arc of the spring is supposed to be, these need to be in place, in relation to the chassis, because this would be the center point of the arc is right here, and then they arc down to meet up with the hubs. So that all needs to be in place in order to figure out how much to bend the leaves to get the arc in it. So this all needs to be done before you can put the spring in. Then you can put the spring in. Spring will attach. There's little rods that sits underneath on each side, and then they mount on here, which should give the suspension a bit of support. Like, that is what supports the car in real life. But I would not trust the weight of this car on its own wheels. There are pedestals that it sits on, so they're definitely mandatory on this one because this suspension is rather spindly. So anyways, that's just a quick check-in on where we are at with this one at the moment. Once I get the clamps all off, I will finish up. I'll start building leaf spring, get that all done. Maybe I'll show you a little bit of that as I do it, and then that will get us to the point where we're joining the front half and the back half of the car together. So that'll be pretty exciting. So anyways, we'll see you in a little bit. Hey, quick check-in here. Just about to get started on getting that rear spring built, but I thought I don't think I've shown anything on photo etch so far on any of my builds, so I just thought I would quickly go over some of the stuff I do, how I handle photo etch in general and so forth, some of the tools I use. So a few things, I just use a little piece of acrylic. This used to be a trophy that looks like a wine glass. So I got that, what I cut on. I use my little fine hobby knife to cut the photo etch, the little frets. I also have some of the Tamiya photo etch scissors. I find they're good for trimming the little nubs off. Sometimes they work good for that, other times they don't quite get it, so then I'll just use a diamond file. I also, for bending some of these smaller parts, like I got these parts right here that I'll be cutting out, and they have to be folded into little brackets, so I'll use these are the Tamiya photo etch bending pliers. I find they're quite handy for that. So, and then I just got some sandpaper. This is just a piece of acrylic with some Infinity sponge on one side, and just normal sandpaper on the other, the Finny as well, the sticky back stuff, of the same grit. So I do a foam on one side and a non-backed on the other. This happens to be 400. I find that's good. What I do with my photo etch, pretty much all of it. I typically don't leave photo etch unpainted or untreated in some way, so I usually, or not usually, I always give it all a bit of a sand, and I'll do that on the fret. Does a few things, you know, if it helps clean it a little bit, although I'm going to be handling it still, so I'll try to remember to clean it after, before I'm ready to prime it. So I'm just doing some of the other stuff on the same fret here. These are the straps for the fuel tank. I'll need those in a little bit. This is noticing on here we got the steering wheel. They actually give you an aluminum steering wheel center as well. So you got the choice to use this stainless one or an aluminum one. I think they give you the aluminum one so that you can polish it a little bit better. And that's what I'll probably use. But if I wasn't using that, I would not. I'd leave this unsanded and I wouldn't paint it, because obviously the stainless or the aluminum represents what the real part is in that case quite well. Leaf springs, you know, they're made out of sprung steel. They're not going to be silver. They're going to be painted or coated in some way, so those won't remain silver, stainless, whatever this is. This isn't used on this particular model. I'll do both sides. This gives a good key for the paint. I think I said that, but that's why I do this primarily. So, get some crap on it. You can see there's some stuff on this one. I don't know what that is. Something sticky. Seems to scratch off with my nail, so I don't know what it is. Anyways, there we go. That's gone. So that cleans it up. Get some prepped. So I'm going to cut. I like Model Factory Hiro's photo etch. They don't put a ton of. I need my magnifiers for this. They don't put a ton of connecting points. Sorry, that's got a massive glare, but I can't really do anything right now. They have very small little connection points, so they're quite easy to separate. One thing I do is I'll take my blade. I don't know if you can see this, probably not, but I take my blade up to the, you know, in the gap there, and I push it up to the edge of the part, and then I cut. And that usually ends up in trimming the little fret or the little nub off quite close, so you don't have much to clean up after that. So once I got them cut out, then I just take my diamond file. Like if I had big nubs on there, that's where I'd use these little scissors. But these are quite, there's not much there, so just a quick, I usually just try to find them with your finger. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. You know, and then just a quick file. Rub your finger over it. Feel if you got it all as you try to sort of work your way around. The edges are usually have a little bit of a round over, so you want to try to match that just from the etching process. Yeah, so that's that one ready to go. So that's it. That's dealing with photo etch in a nutshell. At least getting off the fret and getting it prepared for whatever the next step may be, either bending or maybe I'll pull one off here that I need to bend. So these ones I've already sanded these ones. So I will pull that one off. Really tiny parts, I'll use the bending pliers to hold them while I'm cleaning up the edges. Then just hold them in the pliers with the, I don't know if you can see that. Does it showing up? Let's see if I can't get this to focus. You can see I've put the part in the pliers, there's a little bending line there. Just on the edge of the pliers, and just give it a quick bend. 90 degrees in this case. For small parts like this, I find that this is the quickest way. It's just use these pliers. I also have a photo etch bender. Yeah, so there we go. Sitting flat there. You just bend it up. And it's got little lines etched into it. I don't know if you can see that on these. Can you see that there? There's lines etched in, and those are where you bend it. Now, if you don't have to go more than 90 degrees, I try to typically, unless the way it's etched, you can't. I typically bend with that etch in the inside. So I'm folding into the bend, or into the etched line, so that the outside, is a smooth radius and doesn't have a crease in the middle of it. That's the way I like to do it. If the bend you have to do in the photo etch is more than 90 degrees, so in other words you fold it in on itself, then that won't work, because it'll break if you overbend it that way. So you have to bend that so the etch is on the outside if you're going more than 90 degrees. I'll just show you. If I'm doing complex bends or longer parts, then I'll use one of these, which works really well. It's a bit of I find it takes a lot longer to bend things, especially like small parts like this. It's just way easier to do them with some pliers. You can just use regular pliers too. You don't need these fancy ones. Tammy also makes some tweezers, photo etch bending tweezers for really small parts, which are quite handy if you got like really tiny fine parts to do. They got these tweezers, which, come pretty flat for the whole length of it, so photo etch part's really good for bending them when you got really tiny parts to do. So there we go. That's the crash course in photo etch 101. Yeah, I'm going to get the rest of these parts cleaned up, then I'll start putting it together, and I might show you a little bit of that process, and we'll catch you in a minute. All right, there we have it. Got everything all done on the back part of the chassis, or at least as far as I'm going to go for this episode. That brings us up to the end of 15. Part of 16 is done. I haven't joined the two pieces together yet, obviously. As you can see, that'll be part of the next steps. So yeah, just a bit of a quick look. I got the transmission all done. It's in there. I think might have seen that already, but last thing I worked on was I got the leaf spring built up and installed. Got it arced. hopefully pretty good. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, so it all worked out fairly well. A little finicky. The rear suspension is definitely pretty spindly. There's not a whole lot of contact points there really locating it. So definitely going to need to have the little pillars, the little pedestals for this thing to sit on, but that's all right. I ran a brake line, as you can see here. I just used a bit of solder. You're not really going to see this once the body's on, but that's okay. It's there. It's mainly so I can run the flexible brake lines out to the drums. Got the brake cylinders on in the front. I can't, this will be the continuation of this brake line. That's one that's already installed. The front one's installed in the front part of the chassis. I just got to connect it up there. These two will go to the reservoir. So once I got the two pieces married together, yeah, we can hook all that up. So yeah, fairly pleased with how this is going. It's actually going quite well. No real issues with this kit so far, which is nice. I don't know why this is not. Yeah, no real issues with this kit so far. It's going together fairly smoothly. Just the typical fit issues with model Factory Hiro. You know, there's always going to be little things you got to deal with, but nothing terrible. So I'm going to leave it at that for this episode. So yeah, once again, that's brought us up to the end of step 15. So the next episode we'll get into marrying the two pieces of the chassis together, get the dash and the seat and everything done, and probably get all the way up and get the brakes built and installed as well. And that almost finishes the chassis. The only thing after that will be finishing the fuel tank, getting it installed in the back, and then it's onto the bodywork. So yeah, it should move along pretty quick here after this. So with that, I will leave you with a big thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe to my channel so that you get notified of new content once I get them loaded up. So thanks again for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.